Let's start. Which on the holy night? On the holy night, not in the holy night. She's only a witch on the holy night. Night time, man. Dang, when are they gonna make a fighting game? I guess only Melty Blood, huh? I guess. I want another fuck. I'm talking about Fate Unlimited Code. Another 3D Fate game would be pretty cool. I played like 3 of them, right? There was 3. There was Fate Unlimited Code and there was 2 other ones that I got. I don't remember how. They were pretty fun. Let's see. Archive. I gotta read 8.5. Whoa, what the fuck is this? Oh shit. We're not gonna progress to the story today. Hey, get ready. Fuck. No matter how busy one is, any person living with humans is certain to have at least some free time. Before or after eating, for example. It's difficult to eliminate the time required to prepare a meal and the time after one finishes eating. This is particularly the case for those who do a lot of thinking. Since the body needs to use energy to digest after eating, there's less available for the brain to use.
ナイキはあれでしょ 2K の文字りでしょアテナの持ってる盾じゃなくて小さな勝利の女神の方。陸上競技に勝つってイメージじゃない？
さすがブランド品とか大好きな青子さん。どうでもいい知識だけはそれなりっすね。
Who's she talking to? The bird? The studious residents of the mansion is now taking refuge on the sofa, looking exhausted. Ako was talking to the robin perched on the table. The blue bird flapped its wings, doing its best to join in on the after dinner conversation. Alex was reading in the sunroom. The discussion of how to deal with the encroaching enemy mage wouldn't start for at least another 30 minutes.
じゃあアディダスはもしかしてアディオスの文字りっすか？
Adios.
あれは普通に名前じゃなかったっけ？ほら、グリム童話みたいに作った兄弟の名前がそのままブランド名になっちゃったのよ。
ブラザーグリムは童話を作ったわけじゃないわ。埋もれていた口伝を収集して物語に仕立て直して丁寧に編纂した人たちよ。職人というより学者の類ね。まあ多少は詐欺師めいたところもあるけれど。
I mean, yeah.
へえ。じゃあアンデルセンは？人魚姫とか親指姫とか超メジャーだけど。あと醜いアヒルの子。
自分裸の王様とかたまんないっす。
Nimikui means ugly.
シンパシー感じるっすよ。
Sounds like a
クリスタ
really
ルキングに。
big word.
アン
Probably
デル
like
センは
disgusting.
学者というより作家でしょうね。彼の創作意欲は裕福層や大衆、平凡な幸福を得ている人々、果ては女性像への憤りから生まれたものだと言われているし、知的好奇心から筆を取ったのではなく、感情を訴えるために筆を取った人。あまりこういう説明はしたくないのだけれど、それぞれ分けて説明するなら、マザーグースは歌、ブラザーグリムは物語、アンデルセンは偶話ね。
I feel like when Nasu
ミツバ
writes
チバ
this,
チはアニメっすね。
he's just writing what he thinks from time to time.
ところで青子さん、アシックスの由来は何すか？
Oshinko.
これは私も小学校の頃友達に聞いたものなんで真偽はわからないんだけど、アシックスってもともと3つの会社が合併してできた会社なのよ。
Ashi.
で3社の社長が集まると足が6本になるじゃない？だから足6、 あくまで俗説だけどね。
Ah, come on. Alice had dropped her book on the floor, off the sunroom, and was biting her lip. She was clearly trying to feign calm and to breathe as if nothing had happened. She thought she was doing a convincing job of it.
あの子の笑いのツボもわかんないわね。
Okay. Okay.
それはどうすかね。あんまりにもつまんなかったから怒ってるのかもしれないっす。だってアリスさん、怒り浸透しても笑顔になるんすよ。自分たまに見るっす。アリスさんの日記を盗み見てると後ろでそういう顔してるっす。それ以上見ると死ぬわよって。でも勘弁してほしいっす。見ちゃうものは見ちゃうっすよ。自分から素行調査を取ったらもう基礎本能しか残らない気もするっす。
The Robin felt compelled to give a counter argument for some reason. Akko let out a sigh. Even Alice sympathized with her over the difficult familiar.
ただいま。お、今日は二人ともいるんだな。
It was at this time that Soichiro returned. He must have just gotten home from his part-time job.
おかえり、お疲れ様。
Akko's warm welcome was quite the opposite from the faint response from the sunroom.
夕食は済ませてきたからいらないよ。じゃあ夜のバイトに備えてちょっと寝てくれ。
Soichiro still gave Alice a wave as he left. The dull thud of something dropping was heard as he entered the hallway.
おーい、なんか落ちたわよ。
Akko peeked out from the sofa to yell for Soichiro.
ああ、ポケットに入れっぱなしだった。
Soichiro calmly and naturally walked back to pick up what looked to be some kind of envelope. Perhaps it was instinct, but the human eye was drawn to motion, even if it was something one had no personal interest in. Akko keenly followed Soichiro's hand with her eyes. Oh, his money? Okay. What you gonna steal it? Founder's Keeper. A wad of cash. Loser Reaper. She had to restrain herself from shouting her thoughts out loud as she leaped up from the sofa.
ん？どうした青崎？
どうしたってその。
Akko found it difficult to come up with a proper response to the pure innocent eyes staring back at her. She was ashamed of how she had jumped up at the enticing sight of so much money.
なんでもない。そうよね。普通にアルバイトの給料日よね。にしても結構もらってんのね、あんた。
There was an awkward pause before Soichiro smiled and returned back to his room.
ん？
Akko sat back down on the sofa, still feeling a bit awkward. This was what set it all off. It began a series of events that the Robin would later name the Dosh Affair. Hey, I want to say something. I'm trying to interpret it right. You know what's this one's particularly different from the other Type Moon stuff. This one has a lot of mini stories, I noticed. Alright. This really does feel like a lot of Nasu mini stories collections. Even some of the dialogue feels like Nasu what he thinks, and he wanted to write it down and put it in the story. Like what he thinks about Anderson versus the Grimm Tales or things like that. Feels a lot of that. And this one, because they made it optional, 8.5, this feels like another mini story too. It was the next day and around the same time as the previous day's incident. Ako was coming to pour some tea and relax when she heard Sojiro and that Robin engaged in some kind of debate in the drawing room.
その人が言うには、人と会うたびに小さな親切を尽くしてあげるべきだと。そうして一日が終わったら、その親切が何をもたらしたか、よく噛み締めなさいって。たった一回の言葉だけの親切でも、相手にとっては大きな意味があるんだそうだ。それが思いもよらない幸福を運んでくる。
うは、だから自分にビーフジャーキーくれたっすか？でもそれ親切じゃなくて袖の下っていう伝統芸能じゃないっすかね。アンダーハート見え見えっす。
Sojiro's serious demeanor was more like a consultation or proposal than an idle chatter.
まあ、あいつが妙なのはいつものことか。
Ako decided to ignore what was going on in the drawing room and head straight for the sunroom. There, she saw Sojiro's coat on the chair.
ちょっと宗十郎、コート置きっぱなしじゃない。
Sojiro.
今のコート掛けか自分の部屋に持って行って。
She stopped herself mid-sentence. Oh, fuck. She could see the same kind of envelope that Sojiro had dropped on the ground yesterday inside his coat pocket. She gonna steal it? It was even thicker than the one she saw the day before.
ふん。
She wouldn't allow herself to make a spectacle about it like she did yesterday. She reminded herself she was a model student and the student council president. There you go.
さ
A
ー
bit
て、
more.
紅茶紅茶っと。
Feigning disinterest, she listened in on the conversation going on in the drawing room. Sojiro was still in deep conversation with the Robin. Perhaps he hadn't heard her calls.
都会の孤独は万人に平等だ。一見して身勝手な暴力じみた押し着せの善意も長い目で見ればその人のためになる。
なるほど。親切の押し付けには一銭もかからないっすからね。ちゃんちゃん人助けするっすよ。
うん。ただより高いものはないって言うけどね。
どっちっすかこのシャバゾン。
Ako was so intent on eavesdropping, she completely forgotten that she'd come to pour a cup of tea. There was no way she could ignore such a suspicious conversation.
こうも言うんだ。幸福になりたければ、初めは恨まれてもいいと。やれ金を返せだの詐欺師だの言われても、いずれその人のためになると分かっていれば、心を鬼にできる。人に尽くしている喜びが、後ろめたさとか帳消しにするらしい。
それ知ってるっす。でも微妙に違うような。
Ako agreed with the Robin in this case. Sojo was referring to the words of a famous entrepreneur. Yeah, let me get to comfy mode. If we want to find happiness, let's stop thinking about gratitude or ingratitude and give for the inner joy of giving. That was the actual quote. Oh.
あるいはこうとも。
There we go.
貯金のある人はその富を温存するよりも会社がより豊かになるために使うべきだと。
それも知ってるっす。でももう完全に違うような。
Ako was becoming upset with how much she's agreeing with the Robin at this point. This was a quote from an even more famous entrepreneur. Surplus wealth is a sacred trust, which his processor is bound to administer in his lifetime for the good of the community. This was how that one was supposed to go.
信じられるのはお金だけなのかもしれない。だって奥さんも子供もずっと一緒にいてくれるわけじゃない。不幸な事故で先立たれることだってある。でもお金は別だった。お金で幸福は買えないけど、幸福はお金になる。今は人の親切と温かい布団があればそれでいいと、その人は言った。
なんか無性にらしくないこと言ってるわね、あいつ。
Though his words were a bit strange and worrisome, Ako couldn't spend much time worrying about it. She didn't have the capacity to worry about anyone else right now. Her battle with the enemy mage was always lurking just beneath the surface.
どっちにしろ、私には関係ないか。
Ako shrugged it off and turned her attention away from the drawing room. She told herself that she would forget all about this commotion by tomorrow anyway. Was that tomorrow?
ただいま。
Yes, it's tomorrow. Or is it tonight? I don't know. Sojiro was back from his job with a smile on his face again today. Work truly was its own reward. His mood was infectious, and Ako smiled back while relaxing on the sofa.
はい、お疲れ様。休んでていいわよ。今日は昼からずっとバイトだったんでしょ？
Take a rest.
夕飯ならこれから作って。何？
Her smile suddenly turned frigid.
ん？どうした青崎？木の実の冗談を聞いた時みたいな顔して。
どうしたじゃない！いい加減黙っていられなくなった！いいから、そのポケットのもん出しなさい！
ん？
Sojiro reached in and pulled out the contents of his pockets without knowing why he's being scolded. Oh shit. He placed the now all too familiar brown envelope on the table. It was far too thick for any normal envelope. Bright and enticing, it was imbued with an enchanting aura all its own. There was nothing else it could be than a stack of cash.
まあ、これはどうしたの、しずきくん。
Isn't she being nice? Alice innocently asked Sojiro. She was a bit dazzled at the sight, but there was no mistaking it for an illusion.
バイト代だよ。
Did it pay him under the
そ
table?
う。それはいいことだわ。
Damn.
明日はごちそうね。
Wow. The two remained calm despite the abnormally large water cache before them. That being said, the one with the most common sense in the house finally had to speak up. Ako?
わけないでしょ。ちょっと宗十郎、そこに正座。どういうことか説明なさい。
She knew more than anyone how serious this was.
ん？説明って何をだ？
決まってるでしょ。この札束の正体よ。
Wish I got like another
あ
chair
んた
for
今
my
何や
legs.
ってんの？どう考えてもまっとうな職種とは思えないんですけど。
まっとうだぞ。この新しいバイトは少なくとも法には触れていないと聞いた。
It's
ちゃんと
not
やれば危ない目にも合わない。コンビニエンスストアより割がいいし、俺でも簡単にできるという。
unbelievable. Ako was just about dizzy with rage by this point. At least not illegal. This was like an obvious drunk person tries to contend that they are indeed quite the contrary.
正気に戻れ。日ごとお金が倍々に増えていくバイトなんてあるわけないでしょ。いいから仕事の内容を言いなさい。内容を。あんたどう考えても騙されてるから。
Sojiro kept his mouth shut. He didn't seem to be too threatened by Ako reprimands.
ダメだ。いくら青崎でも教えられない。あんまり人に話すことでもない。でも安心してくれ。分類的にはちょっとした人助けと言えるだろう。あと紹介してくれた人とは一度しか会ってないし、支払いは常に現金だ。
この田舎バカ。その文脈からして怪しすぎるんだっていうの。
Ako stamped her foot in frustration. But who could blame her after hearing the standard lines for a scam? It's a new job, the pay is good, and anyone can do it, and I'm not supposed to talk about it. Despite all that. Sojiro was still refusing to spill the beans. They hadn't known each other for that long, but Ako was well aware of Sojito's personality. I should buy like a net. That way I can put my legs up. Steadfast explained him well. Once he made a decision, nothing could make him change his mind about it. At times like this, it was nearly impossible to get him to talk.
厄介な。
Ako backed off, realizing it would be a challenge to get him to say anything at this point. Soshiro couldn't figure out what was upsetting her.
なんで青崎は怒ってるんだ？
Ako decided to give up on getting anything useful out of him.
そんなうまい話はないからよ。アリスもそう思うでしょ。
そうね。青子の言いたいことはわからないけど、しずきくんはもっとやるべきだと思う。
What? And so Alice contributed absolutely nothing useful. Ako collapsed onto the sofa.
青崎、
いいわよもう。よくわかんない理由で話す気ないんでしょ、宗十郎は。考えてみればあんたなんてただの同居人なわけだし、私があれこれ文句言う筋合いはなかったわ。
Ako shooed Sojiro away with her hand. Unfortunately, she wasn't going to be able to sit there and stew like she wanted to. She couldn't just ignore this problem like Alice. Legs.
あいつはどう見ても騙されてるし、最終的にとばっちり食らうのは私だし。
She needed to be bold and make him quit this new job of his immediately. It was what a true friend would do. It was also her duty as a student council president. However, Agro started to think otherwise. Morals and clear conscience were important, sure, but for a student living solely off of their parents' generosity, that kind of money was hard to pass up.
そうね。最終的に辞めさせるのは絶対にしても、これまで稼いだお金を捨てるのはもったいないし。
おい。
仕方ない。ここは絡めてでいくか。
The wicked, scheming student council president sank deeper into the sofa. Dang, I would like a sofa. Her ability to play things by ear and her misery nature were both her strongest and weakest point. The next day, noon. Alko waited until her roommate was gone, then picked up the phone in the foyer.
もしもし、飛び丸？宗十郎がこんなことになってるんだけど、あんた心当たりない？
The sound of the first train leaving the station could be heard far off in the distance. They're playing this ominous music. This was that time of morning when the town was deciding if it felt like waking up or not. Tobimaru Tsukiji was having a walk down the city streets at sunrise, enjoying the fresh, crisp morning air.
街ってのは人間がいないだけで綺麗なもんだ。
The crowds had become a common complaint of Tobimaru. To him, the tacky, over-decorated street corner were embodiments of human desire. At this time of day, the streets were nothing like the curious tint of activity they usually were. The main street was completely empty. It was like a lonely, tranquil morning after a festival. Oh. Sorry. The wearing man in black was busy cleaning up and restoring order in the bars after the previous night's revelry. Around the back entrance of the local restaurant, the kitchen crew were busy bringing in their daily ingredients while stifling back tired yawns. Birds carelessly wandered the streets. There wasn't even the sound of a single car engine to be heard. It's tomorrow's Sunday. Hold on, I gotta make sure. Oh yeah. There was a uniquely refreshing sensation that could only be felt from a city morning. It existed somewhere between daily life and exciting entertainment. Dude, today is Sunday. What the hell? I thought tomorrow was Sunday. This was the only time of day when the bustling modern world stepped aside for a slower pace.
そうか。
Tobimaru searched through his coat pockets, but only found some old receipts. He arranged a scarf around his neck to keep the cold wind at bay. Meandering around through the city streets, he ended up at Central Park just as the morning magic began to fade. His stroll had no particular purpose. It wasn't for his health or anything like that. He was merely making his way home after a night out on the town.
バカらしい。何やってんだか。
Tobimaru had a moment of unabashed self-reflection as he drank a can of vending machine coffee. He didn't particularly hate partying all night long, but it was pretty boring since he still wasn't old enough to drink alcohol. He'd been at it for a few days now, thinking it was at least better than being at home, but he was quickly growing bored of it.
年末に親戚筋が集まるのは仕方がねえし。
He grinned wildly at his lame excuse. It was true that he was out wasting time like this because he didn't really have a place to go home to at the moment. The Tsukihime family always had a congregation of relatives over on New Year's Day, as per his grandfather's order. That was why his sibling and other relatives have been staying over at the Tsukihime home for a few days now. If Tobimaru was there, he'd just provide fuel for the fire. He decided to avoid the family drama and not go home while everyone was there. They just greet him with insults anyway. And if someone tried to start a fight, he knew he wouldn't be able to resist the bait. It would only cause even more resentment and trouble for his father. So, for Tobimaru, there was nothing more pointless and less enticing than getting involved in his siblings' squabbles over the inheritance. Tobimaru Tsukiji was the fifth-born son to the Tsukiji family, which owned multiple plots of land in Misaki City. However, most of that land has been acquired after the war. Before that, they had been a minor noble family on the brink of ruin. The man who built the Tsukiji family into the current glory was Kimikuni Tsukiji, Tobimaru's grandfather and the current patriarch. Kimikuni married into the struggling Tsukiji family and saved them after they lost all their power during the war. The Tsukiji clan were local Shinto clergy and relied upon the Kimikuni financial assets. Kimikuni, on the other hand, had leveraged clan connection to establish himself in Misaki City. While both parties came together for mutual gain, the Tsukihime family failed to recognize just how ambitious Kimikuni was when they accepted him into their family. He wasn't the obedient son-in-law they had imagined. He had grand plans for his own, growing a developing industry within Misaki City and many other areas as well. Kimikuni controlled all of these areas not as a member of the Tsukiji family, but under his own name. The castle's greatest defense was his moats, not the walls, and Kimikuni bridged the moat. It was the economic equivalent of starving out the enemy. Kimikuni's financial might subdue the noble Tsukiji family completely. In less than 10 years, there was no one in the family who could stand up against him. The businessman accepted into the family as a mere son-in-law had seized the Tsukiji name in the entirety of the family fortune. However, Kimikuni had fathered many children. He would not allow the Tsukiji bloodline to die out, and that was also the only way to maintain the family fortune. His 3 sons and 1 daughter all married relatives to the Tsukiji family, thus strengthening the family bonds. Wait, that Kimikuni have a weekend? Hey, wait. Wait a minute, what does that mean? Does that mean they married their cousins? He's a son-in-law. What does that mean? What does in-law mean? Alright, hold on. He married? Didn't he have kids? Didn't his kids marry their cousins? Okay. I mean, alright. Tobimaru was the 5th son of the Hideyoshi Tsukiji, Kimikuni's eldest son. Alright, I guess. Gotta make the bloodline strong. However, his mother was not a member of the family. Tomomaru was the result of a fling with a mistress. Oh shit. The ignoble birth defined his place in the family. He was his father's love child. Although the family dignity was somehow maintained since he was the son of Hideyoshi, it wasn't difficult to imagine the level of mistreatment Tomomaru faced from his siblings and other relatives. Being raised in such hostile environment made Tomomaru grow up far faster than he should have. His ability to think quickly and objectively was honed naturally within the challenging environment. However, those exact traits also brought Tomomaru a great deal of trouble. Kimikuni Tsukiji. Unfortunately, against all odds, this great leader of the Tsukiji family favored Tomomaru over everyone else, including his eldest son. Since Kimikuni had been a commoner himself, he did not believe in blood inheritance alone. To make matters worse, not a single coin from his great fortune had been given to any of his sons yet. The most loathsome thing in this world is the blood of the Tsukiji family. I never would have any of you if I could have helped it. Those words were spoken at every family gathering, and they were the absolute truth. He'd taken a liking to Tomomaru after speaking with him at these annual family gatherings, and enjoyed playing chess with him in his spare time ever since. Everyone in the family was worried Kimikuni would name Tomomaru his successor. In this way, Tomomaru had gone from being worthless to a threat in the eyes of Kimikuni's sons. The son who felt the most fear and hatred was Tomomaru's own father, Hideyoshi, who would have been the unquestionable heir as the eldest son. Backstory, yeah. And this was how Tomomaru became estranged from his father. They no longer even live in the same house. Hideyoshi always acted like they had a great father-son relationship in front of Kimikuni, but that was only last until his father was no longer around or until Tomomaru was officially named the heir. When that happened, it would be an all-out war. Yeah, man, backstory time. Just sit back, get some potato chips, and enjoy the backstory. Tomomaru scratched his head in frustration. Hey, welcome Nasu didn't get backstories to the characters of Stay Night. What's that girl? Tosuka friend? I like that girl a lot. The brunette girl. She didn't get a backstory. She should have. She should have got a backstory. In public, it looked like they had a good father-son relationship. In private, they were in the midst of a bitter inheritance dispute. Things had always been that way, even before he met Kimikuni. Man, I hope Nasu... I kind of hope Nasu doesn't do this type of stuff in Tsukihime Remake. He didn't, right? Tsukihime Remake was just story. That's it, right? It was just the arc story and the CL story. The CL story was a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but it was still pretty good. Yeah, he won't do that for Red Garden. I trust in Nasu. The only difference was that his soul protector, his father, was now his mortal enemy. Tomomaru was always been at odds with his family. His father was just one more enemy to add to the pile. Staying out all night like this was Tomomaru's way of avoiding his family. If he was home, he knew he would try to gauge his feelings. I think Wish on the Holy Night to me so far is a collection of stories. I think it's a collection of stories that Nasu always wanted to write, but he could never find the right moment to write it. I guess until Witch on the Holy Night. Because it does feel like a lot of collection stories. Random stories. I guess only with the extra episodes. It's only been like maybe 2 or 3 extra episodes so far. However, they wouldn't... I think it's 3. Yeah, 3 extra stories so far. However, they wouldn't openly attack him now. Even the relatives would look down on him and his siblings who had bullied him as a child. The worst they could do was make snide remarks. Tobimaru was, at his core, a peaceful person. He preferred to avoid trouble whenever possible. Petty revenge or even stepping up to Kimikuni expectation weren't on his to-do list. His father's worries were unfounded. His relatives were getting riled up for no reason, and Tobimaru had no intention of stepping out of his role as the prodigal son. However, his siblings, who were around the same age as him, held a different kind of resentment. Perhaps they felt guilty for tormenting him all these years. Perhaps it was a result of the roles being reversed. He's going to get back at us one day. They lived in such fear at this that they didn't dare ignore Tobimaru.
そのくせ根回しはうまくねえときた。青崎ぐらいの大胆さで突っ込んでくるんなら、まだスリルがあるってもんだがな。
His family problems were simply a chore. They never really worried him much. He was used to human malice. Although he nearly died from the physical abuse of his siblings. Even though someone had once tried to kill him with true murderous intent. Even though he had been exposed to how the elite, untouchable class of society treated others by his eldest brothers. It was all such a pain in the ass. They were all events that would change a person's outlook in life, but he always remained cool-headed. That was just how things were for Tobimaru. He had grown bored of his relatives getting worked up over everything.
まあ、そのあたりは人それぞれか。親父殿には同情するけどな。あのじいさんの息子なんて波の根性じゃ務まらねえ。
Tobimaru honestly could not care less about who would be the next heir. He had no clear plans for the future yet. His only real goal was to wash his hands of his family and start fresh when he became an adult. Until then, everything that happened was a life experience. He continued his morning walk, thinking it was better to enjoy the nightlife now, while he was still young. Someone was already sitting on the bench when Tobimaru entered the plaza. The crows gathered there flew off at his approach. Soichiro. On the bench sat a girl dressed in black. Oh, Alice? A well-dressed old man with a cane sat with her. Oh, I don't know. Never mind. These were familiar faces, so he approached the bench to say hello. Oh, it's Alice. The old man and girl looked as if they were grandfather and granddaughter. He seemed like a kind old man spending time with his grandchild. Yes, Alice. However, the truth was...
Alice, 僕は今でも思うんだ。一体何がいけなかったのかって考えられるサービスはすべて実現させた。従業員への感謝も 来園者への笑顔も忘れたことはない。なのに時代は僕を選ばなかった。それどころか僕の内なる芸術性を否定した。
Let me sit up. Huh? Does he have spots? Oh, fuck. Hey, good shit, Takuichi. You know, whenever they draw an old person in anime, they don't have like the old person spot on their faces. Whatever those things are called. When you get old, you get spots on your face. They always have like a very clean look, and then they have like those little lines underneath their eye, and their hair is white. And they call them like, oh, this dude's 60. I'm like, motherfucker. Takuichi, he drew spots. I'm like, oh, fuck. You actually make him look old. Hey, good shit, Takuichi. You're the goat.
なんだ。死ぬがいい。腐った魚のようなマスコミどもめ。何が悪夢のクリーチャーか。あんな夢にまで見そうなマスコットが他にあるだろうか。いや、あるまい。なのに連中と来たらネズミを二足歩行させれば満足ときた。そもそも犬をペットにする齧歯類とか冷静に考えたら怖いぞ。動物が動物をペットにするなんてモラルが低いにも程がある。あそこはやはり人間をペットにするべきじゃないんだろうか。
Naturally. This poor young woman was getting an earful from this old man. After his outburst, he paused for a moment.
いや、これは失礼。ゆり彦よ、紳士たれ。
He scolded himself and hung his head.
答えてくれ、アリス。一体僕のキッツイちゃんは何がいけなかったんだ。
Oh, he owned Kissing Land.
角よ。角をつけるべきだったのよ。
The girl in black returned to the old man's solemn bow with a grim answer of her own.
いや、角はいけない。子供たちが怪我をしてしまうからね。僕は傷をつけるなら体ではなく心にしたい。
What the fuck? The girl nodded deeply, thinking over the implication of what this old man had just said.
さて。
Tobimaru didn't really want to get involved, but he was already too close. If he passed by without saying anything, the old man would certainly make a fuss. He's just gonna say konnichiwa. Or
こんにちは。
Yeah.
こんな朝っぱらからじくじく公開中かい。時津のじいさん。いつまでも引きずってると死に損なうぜ。さっさと往生して息子たちを安心させてやんな。
おや、どこの悪ガキかと思えば豊かの子供か。
Okay.
おはよう、トビー。君も相変わらず早起きだね。
They call him Toby.
俺は朝帰りですよ。お二人みたいに健康的じゃない。そら、クオンジのお嬢さんもおはようさん。
Kuonji Ojo-san. The girl looked up calmly at Tobimaru greeting. It was none other than the witch on the hill, Alice Kuonji.
こうしてまともに挨拶するのは2年前のパーティー以来か。何にせよ珍しいな。あんたがお付きなしで町に降りてきてるなんてよ。
そうでもないわ。この時間の公園は鳥を入れ替えるのにちょうどいいから。一人で散歩によく使うの。
ほう、そりゃ驚いた。箱入り娘じゃなかったのかあんた。
ええ。その証拠にあなたがひどい顔で歩いているのを何度か見かけたわ。遊び歩くのは結構だけど、青子に迷惑かけないよう気をつけなさい。
ご忠告どうも肝に銘じておくよ。
Despite their casual greeting, Tobimaru and Alice rarely interacted, though their fathers were acquainted. Even so, the histories of spirits and influence of the two families were very different. Though Tsukichi's held sway in Misaki City, the Kuanchi influenced the whole of Japan. Normally, someone like Tobimaru would not be in the same social circles as Alice. The only reason they could interact like this at all was because they were both friends with Ako Aozaki.
若菜、トビー、君はアリスと友人関係だったのか。もしかして二人はステディな関係だとか言うまいな。やめたまえ。言ったら大事になるぞトビー。
What the fuck?
僕は心臓麻痺で急死しかねない。犯人は君であり、凶器はアリスだ。無論死因はこう書いてくれ。そう聞くも無情な恋の病と。
クオンジのお嬢さんはどうしてこんなダメ老人と？俺と同じ親父関係の付き合いか？
この人とはペンフレンド。分不相応にいいアンティークを持っているから、青子と二人で少しずつ取り上げているの。
Okay. Despite this being one of the only times they really talk, Tomoto and Alice both managed to completely ignore the old man. So that's where, what's her face? Alice get her antique from. This guy.
アリスは照れ隠しもチャーミングだ。ところで、僕のことはユーリヒと呼んでくれていいんだよ。
Julik is Ulik. Tokitsu-san gently took Alice's hand. Alice's face remained neutral, like a doll.
トッキー、私、いい絵付けのティーカップを探しているの。1900年代のラム工房のものとか。どうかしら？
あるとも。もちろんあるとも。今度おっかないお友達と遊びに来るときまでに用意しておこう。
Akko's a bully. He responded to her request like an obedient marionette.
おいらくの恋って柄かよ。よくもまあ信頼潰さなかったもんだ。突版は。
You see? I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. This owner was none other than Yorihiko Tsuketsu. He was famous in Yashiroge as the famous head of the Toketsu Bank Company with factories all across Japan.
老人とは何だ。芸術家にとっての老いとは
We just know
感
he's
性の凍結であり、
very
し
wealthy
かるに
family.
我が心の火は絶えていない。僕はまだ暑苦しいくらいに若いんだ。つぼみのような少女と恋を語らう楽しみは残っているさ。
Why are there so many perverted old men in
この
anime?
年になるともう世間体とかどうでもよくてね。
No.
女の子と話すことだけが人生の意味になるんだぞ。
You know, everyone that I know over 60, they are pretty fucking perverted. And like, oh man. Please don't be perverted around me, man. I don't want to name examples. Every time I hang out with someone over 60, it's like they stop giving a fuck. And they're just like open closet perverts. No, come on, man. Don't talk about her fat ass in front of her. Oh, dude. That's one fucking Jack in the Box, man. There's a lot of perverted old man anime. There's a lot of perverted old men in real life. The only old men I know over 60 that I talk to are all Asians. So maybe it's a cultural thing. I hope I don't grow up perverted. Oh wait. Openly perverted. I think you just stop giving a fuck when you're old.
おっ
At the
と、
consequences.
失言。最後の方のは聞き流してくれ。僕が言いたいのは、 女の子と穏やかな時間を過ごすのは最高ってことさ。
Alright, old man.
そういうの君も好きだろ？
He's not wrong.
一緒にしないでください。あいにく俺は年上好みですよ。
Then he want a sugar mama.
おまけに言うなら、二回り以上も年下の女に浴場する趣味もねえわけで。
I think that's a normal thing. What?
それはそうだろう。君がやったら犯罪だ。
Okay.
トビーは17歳。
Oh
その
God.
二回り下が何歳になるとか口に出したらいけないよ。
What the fuck? Toketsu-san nodded his head in self-affirmation. Let me read the whole thing again. Huh? What the fuck did that come from? Nasu's, you know why Nasu wrote that in? He wanted to make sure you're paying attention. I bet Nasu was like, man, I bet I'm losing a lot of the readers, what's that called? Focus or attention span, right? Alright. I'm doing this backstory, right? Man, I don't want to lose the attention span of my reader. What can I write that's so out of left field that will bring them back and pay attention to the story? Oh, I know. Toby said he's not interested in girls half his age. Old man respond, I hope so, motherfucker. That's just a fucking crime. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I don't even want to think about what age you be talking about. He said Nanasai. Nanasai means 7 years old.
トビーは17歳。
Oh,
その二
Junanasai.
回り下が何歳になるとか。
Hold on.
トビーは17歳。その二回り下が何歳になるとか
何歳
口に出したらいけないよ。
Okay, yeah, this translation is right. Nansai is like what age? Because nan means like what, right? Like nanka or like naniwa or some shit, right? It's like a short what? And then sai means age. So yeah, he didn't describe the age. He only said about Toby age, which is June Nanasai, 17. He was like, I don't even want to think about what age you motherfucking talking about. What the fuck, Nasu? Alright, you got my attention again, I guess. Tomoto was reluctantly impressed with the man's magnanimity in the end.
ともかく挨拶はしましたから、邪魔者はこれで消えますよ。あとは仲良し同士、気兼ねなくどうぞ。
なんだトビー、これも縁だ。ゆっくりしていけばいい。なんなら今から僕の別荘に来るかね。ヘリコを呼ぶよ。楽しいぞ。
いや、お気持ちは嬉しいんですけどね。知る人が見れば、とんでもなくブルジョアなメンツでしょ、これ。今は避けたい気分なんですよ、そういうの。
Tomoto's choice of words made his present situation clear to Mr. Toketsu, and he reluctantly backed off. I wonder why I call him Toketsu-san. It's Mr. Oh, that's the same shit. Such intuitive, understandable, blah blah blah. Obvious how the man had expanded the Toketsu Baking Company nationwide. He had divined Tomoto complicated family situation in an instant.
ミックによろしく。そろそろ引退して子供たちと仲直りするよ。僕が言っていたと伝えてくれ。
はいはい。ぬかに釘だろうけど伝えておきますよ。じゃあな、クオンジさん。また朝に出会うことがあったら、その時は改めて挨拶させてくれ。
Alex-san neither encouraged nor discouraged this. Tomoto shrugged and left the plaza. I want some pizza. I don't know why I'm craving pizza for some reason. I should have took home the curry. I didn't take the curry home with me. He walked leisurely away from the park and came to an area of the city that was under redevelopment. There was a radio tower under construction there that the Tsukihime family had a hand in, but most of the capital for the project was funded by foreign firms.
この電波塔は 10年先を見越してのものです。いずれ携帯通信は目まぐるしい進歩を遂げるでしょう。まずはそのモデルケースとして私どもの技術を三崎市に普及させたいのです。
The man from the foreign firm shook on the deal with Tobimaru's father, Hideyoshi.
いずれは娘も三崎市に住まわせようと思っています。その時はあなたの息子さんともぜひ交友を深めて。
He was a handsome man who had calm command of a leader. The fact that he offered up his daughter to Tobimaru showed that he had researched the Tsukihime family inheritance issues as well.
親父も舐められてるって気づけよな。親父より先に俺に色目使いやがって。クソヤンキーが。そもそも金髪女の相手なんざ願い下げだぜ。向こうで海兵相手にケツ振ってろってんだ。
Tobimaru stopped his tracks after his mother complaints. He decided to stop himself before he said anything worse. He walked far enough already anyway. The sun was completely up now. There was nothing more to gain from wandering mindlessly.
戻るか。
He turned his back to the radio tower and began heading home. One hour later.
坊ちゃん、お電話です。
Toman had returned to the Tsukihime residence. He took the phone from the housemaid.
もしもし、飛丸？宗十郎がこんなことになってるんだけど、あんた心当たりない？
Ako Awazaki was on the line. This was never a good sign. Dude, my nose is stuffy. I don't know where.
とまあこういうわけなのよ。
すげえな。安心できる要素が一つもねえ。
Sojiro seems caught up in a strange part-time job. I'll wait for you in Central Park to talk about it. Why couldn't they talk about it on the phone? 10 minutes had passed since he had received his call from Ako and returned to the park. Maybe they had to pay per minute. I don't know. Tsurumaru felt a light migraine coming on after hearing about the situation. The young girl and the old man from before were nowhere to be seen.
そんなこと言われるまでもなく分かってるわよ。私だって人のアルバイトにケチつけたくないけど、どう考えても普通じゃないでしょ。あんたあいつから何か聞いてない？
悪いな。期待には応えられん。宗十郎はバイトに関しては秘密主義だ。任されているからには他言はできないとかなんとかな。
そうなのよね。あいつ他人の事情に関しちゃ缶詰みたいに切りがたいから、ガキガキにされない限り口割らないのよ。
ほう、それは青崎にそこまで言わせるとはね。宗十郎も信頼されたもんだ。
どういう意味よそれ。
タイはね、言葉通りに受け取ってくれ。お前基本的に何にだって怒るだろ。そんな女が学校外で世話を焼くなんてよっぽど気に入ったのかと思ってな。
違うわよ。あいつが問題を起こしたら私たちにまで飛び火するじゃない。こんなの誰がどう見てもただのリスク回避でしょ。
なるほど、公務として見過ごせないってわけか。
そうよ。悪い？
No, nothing wrong.
いや悪かねえさ。むしろ尊敬するよ。ほんと鉄の生徒会長だぜ。休日だっていうのに学校の評判を守るためだけに働けるとは。
He's being sarcastic.
だけってところを妙に強調するじゃない。まあ事実その通りだけど。
Aqua Glura seemed to suggest she wasn't interested in hearing any objection. A little bluff was rather charming to Tokumaru, who was well aware of Sojiro and Aqua's current living situation.
別に。しかしまあ、そういうことなら副会長として付き合わなくっちゃな。会長は学校のために宗十郎を調査する。俺はそのサポートをしつつ、友人として宗十郎を気にかける。
I don't know what kind of instrument they use, but it's that string instrument. It sounds like a string instrument that I really like. Tokumaru said he would do as Alco asked, but for some reason she did not seem satisfied. This string instrument right here is playing right now. I like it a
青崎の
lot.
ことだから宗十郎の勤め先ぐらい突き止めてんだろ。住所どこだよ。
それが尾行したんだけどうまく巻かれちゃって。駅前から2丁目方面に曲がっていたのまでは確実なんだけど。
Something about visual novels and music. They're always fucking good, right? The vice president was used to this. I wonder why visual novel music is always good. He didn't bother saying anything about her going so far as to tell Sojiro.
2丁目か。あの辺りだとパチンコとゲームセンターぐらいしか思い当たらねえな。1日に何万も稼げる店なんざねえぞ。
そうなのよ。というか知ってたら私が試したい気分だわ。飛び丸、念のために聞くけど、三崎町にあるお金の稼げる遊び場ってパチンコだけよね。
あ、親父の話じゃ風営法に引っかかる賭場はねえとさ。三崎町の顔役は話のわかるおっさんで、クリーンな極道を目指してるらしい。パチンコ経営だけで満足してるって話だ。
うん、それは知ってる。一応確認しただけ。でもそうなるとますます謎ね。ギャンブル以外でお金を売買にしていく仕事なんてちょっと思い当たらないんだけど。
ああ、体でも売ってるとしか思えない羽振りの良さだ。一晩いくらみたいな。
Okay. There was a slight delay in Aqua's reaction. It took her a few seconds to register what he was saying, but then her jaw dropped.
体ってあんた。
ほら、絵画のモデルとかバイト代は高いと聞くぜ。
あ、うん、割はいいって言うよね。美大生ってお金持ちだし。そうよね。それぐらいなら別に。
まあヌードなのは当然だが。
結局裸じゃない。
Okay. Without any real information to go on, the conversation was quickly diverging, further from the topic at hand. Without knowing their location or type of work, there really wasn't much to talk about.
明日もう一度宗十郎を尾行するしかないわね。二人がかりなら見失うこともないだろうし。
Okay.
そうだな。他に手がかりもねえし、明日にするか。宗十郎の羽振りがいいだけじゃどうしようも。羽振りがいい。
Tokumaru furrowed his brow. It seemed he had thought of something. The expression turned more dire by the second.
どうしたの飛び丸？何か思い出した？
ちょっとな。そういえば、最近妙に羽振りのいいバカが一人いたなって。そいつ、3日ぐらい前から金に明かして合コンし放題って話なんだが、頭の痛いことに、宗十郎と同じクラスのバカなんだよ、これが。
I don't know why he know me. There were a few seconds of silence. Akko nodded. She had put the two and two together.
あいつね。
Then they're gonna threaten him. The two immediately left the park to go find the suspect. Why is he wearing his school uniform when there's no school today?
お呼びとあらば補習だろうと即サボり、遊びのお誘いだけは断らない木の実くんです。
Unless you don't got a casual outfit. Suspect A was apprehended with ease. Akko and Tomomaru were both in the student council, so they knew their target would be at school for remedial lessons. What's up, Tintin? Tomomaru got a girl in Kinomi class to tell him he had some good news to share outside. Kinomi took the bait and came running out the school front gate as fast as he could.
ああ、補習中呼び出して悪かったな。
別に悪くないぜ。補習を口実にバイトをサボってみたものの、やっぱり補習もかったるかったんで、出席だけ取って保健室で寝てただけだし。で、ちょうど暇してたところに殿下からコールだろ。合流できると飛んできたわけさ。
Oh, that's why he was at school. To skip his job? Alright. Kinomi gets a double thumbs up to show up. He was really ready to have some fun.
そうか。てっきり外で遊び歩いてると思ったが、助かったぜ。お前、連日ゲームセンターに入り浸りだって聞いてたからよ。
ああ、あれね。ちょうど昨日ですっからかんよ。ゲーセンでおごりまくるのは気持ちいいけど、後に残るのは虚しさばかりだよな。他校のヤンキーどもと仲良くなっても嬉しくねえっつうが、女っ気皆無というか。なんで女の子はゲーセン嫌がるかね。まあ、それも過去の話だけどな。所詮ポット湧いたあぶくぜに使っちまった金の話をしてもしょうがねえ。俺たちは明るく今の話をしよう。そうだろう、リッチな飛び丸くん。その有り余る財力で今日は僕をどこに連れて行ってくれるんだい？
ああ、その前にこちらの御人がお前に話があるってよ。
It's like they're jumping him, man.
こんにちは、木の実くん。そのあぶく銭の話を聞かせてもらえるかしら。
Kinomi expression went blank. If anyone could sniff out danger, it was him, and it stank like his impending doom.
僕勉強したいんで戻っていいでしょうか？
もちろん。洗いざらい質問に答え終わったら戻っていいわよ。こっちも時間が惜しいからスムーズな自白を期待するわ。それであぶく銭って何の話？あなたの月々のバイト料は2万円前後よね。その金額で3日近くも王様の真似事は難しいと思うのだけど。
It seemed the next logical question would be just if he had begun a life of crime.
なんだよ、会長には関係ないだろう。そもそも自白って何ですか？いきなり犯人扱いとか、いくらなんでも横暴じゃねえの？つうか何の事件これ？
まだ事件かどうかは何とも。最近お金の回りがいい生徒がいると聞いて調べ始めたばかりだから。毎日何万円ももらえる仕事なんて学生には目の毒だし、そういったアルバイトは学校側に報告されてないしね。 生徒会として危ない仕事だったら注意してあげないと。
Ako was still smiling as she inched closer to Kinomi. She had never spoken to him this nicely after what he had done at the entrance ceremony. That alone was enough to make him think he was in big trouble.
へえ、それは初耳だな。最近金回りがいい生徒ね。俺のは違うよ。今まで貯めた貯金をなんとなく使っただけ。クリスマス前だからこう派手に錠剤しとこうかなって。役落とし的に。
Okay.
普通クリスマス前は貯金するもんだけどな。
ダメよ築地君、デリカシーが足りないわ。残酷な事実は口にしたくはないけど、木の実君にはイブを過ごす相手がいないってことでしょ。学友としてそこを追求したらかわいそうよ。
いるわい本命ぐらい。真剣に同情する方がデリカシーに欠けると思うよ俺は。
あら、じゃあイブ用の資金は取ってあるの？
Damn, man.
当たり前さ。臨時収入と貯金は別。
Oh.
俺通帳親父に握られてるからさ。予定外の入金とかすぐバレて怒られるんだよ。どこで悪さしてきやがったって。部屋も妹がチェックするしさ。隠し場所とかないんだよ。天井裏に隠したエロ本すら見つけられるんだぜ。万札入った封筒とか見つかった日には警察に連れて行かれる。だから速攻使うしかなくってさ。
Damn, man, he's spilling everything. Kinomi laughed awkwardly as if he was ashamed. He wasn't even aware of just how much he had let slip.
へえ、臨時収入？さっきと話違うみたい。
いやー、それはほらバイト先のボーナスみたいな。5000円ぐらい上乗せしてもらったの。ほんなちゃった。ちょっとだけだって。事件性とかないって。
万札入った封筒について詳しく。
うわ、話せば話すほど食い違っていくぜ。なんだこれ、孔明の罠か。会長近い。ほらすごい、なんか寒い。しかもローファーじゃなくてブーツですか。この前封じられた俺の記憶が蘇りそうなんですけど。
Okay. Kinomi backed away slowly.
木の実くん、時間がないって言ったの、もう一度アピールするべきかしら。直接体に。
The threat of a kick to the face from Ako was enough to show him that she was serious.
わかった、話すってばもう。臨時収入ってのは本当だよ。新しいバイトがあってさ、そこにしずきを紹介したら先輩にボーナスもらったんだよ。
なんですって。
Kinomi really was working at the same part-time job as Sojiro. She wanted to get as much information from him as she could. This was the exact response she had wanted from Kinomi, if not better. But she felt dizzy from the implications.
紹介したらボーナスをもらえるって、それ。
Oh, pyramid scheme. It was the oldest trick in the book for pyramid schemes and other unscrupulous business practices.
いや、それがさ、しずきが稼ぎを増やしたいって言うんで、ちょい怪しいバイトを紹介したんだよね。
Okay. This went all... Another fucking flashback! This went back all the way to before final exams. Kinomi told Sojiro about a job he heard of from an older student. Since the job required a kind, honest young man, Kinomi reluctantly gave up on him for himself and instead passed it on to a friend he thought fit the description.
信じられない。そんな怪しい話にクラスメートを放り出しておいて、 まだ友人顔するとか。木の実くん、普段何考えて生きてるの？
友達でも紹介するでしょ、こういうの。むしろ本当の友情ってこういうものよ。しずきも助かって俺も潤うんだからさ。無償の友情とかもう流行んないですよ。
そりゃそうだけど、そういうのはちゃんとケツ持つ覚悟がある時だけ口にするものじゃないの？
What's the job?
何それ、めんどくさい。会長、男同士の友情に幻想を持ちすぎだってば。基本俺たちみんなバカよ。
あなたを見てると本気でそう思えてくるから不思議ね。飛び丸、あんたよくこんなのとつるんでるわね。
はいはい、そこまで。説教するならまた後でな、青崎。そいつ素でバカだから、本気で構成させたかったら1日使うぞ。
いや、足りますよ。ちゃんと1日で構成できます、僕。ただ寝ると忘れちゃうだけで。
ほらな。てめえがバカだって自覚している分、気づいてないやつよりは付き合いやすい。この若さで情けは人のためならずを実践してる野郎はそういねえし。
納得。確かにあんたと気が合いそうな性格ね。
いや、参ったな。
It's not a compliment.
なんだよ、二人とも。いくら俺でも照れるじゃんか。今俺のこと褒めてなかった？
褒めてねえ。
褒めてないわよ。
ですよね。
What the fuck? What's the job? With Kinomi leading the way, Akun and Tomomaru arrive at the part-time job in question. Oh, there we go. The big reveal. They move past the new entertainment district in front of the station, and into the seedy part of the second street. Ako pointed to where she had lost Sojido when she was following him.
この辺りね。木の実くん、そのバイト先ってど
Oh,
こ？
new OST? Okay.
あの辺。
Kinomi pointed at the 4-story office building. The entrance was on one side of the first floor. At first glance, it looked no different from an apartment complex. The hallway on the first floor continued around to the back of the building. The stairs were located at the beginning of the hallway and were the first thing you saw after entering.
ちょっとそこの路地裏に入りましょう。
Ako hurried off into the back alley, where they were not likely to be seen. 3 students stuck out like a sore thumb in an entertainment district like this.
で、中はどうなってんの？事務所って言ってたけど、どんな仕事？
俺に聞いてんの？やだな。俺が知ってるのはここまでだぜ。俺だって先輩に言われただけで中のことなんて知らないし、宗十郎をここまで連れてきたら先輩が紹介料くれただけだし。
The top suspect just admitted he knew no further details. Hosuke Kinomi, co-defendant, or perhaps who they thought may have been the main culprit, was really no more than an annoying witness.
参った。ここまで無責任だといっそすがすがしい。ところで木の実くん、西部劇とか見たことある？役に立たない情報提供者の末路とかご存知かしら？
I'll kill them.
いや、俺映画って苦手なんだよ。でもセーラー服と機関銃なら見た。主演目当てで。
Okay.
そう？ 残念ね。夕日のガンマンぐらいは見とけばよかったのに。ま、どうあれ情報提供者は悲惨な死を遂げるんだけど。
やる気満々だぜこの女。殿下、こんな教授をほったらかしにしちゃまずいって。首輪とかつけないとさ。って築地なんだよ、しけた顔しちゃって。あのビルが何か知ってんの？
まずいな。知ってるも何も。あれは最近やってきた詐欺まがいのセールス屋だ。英会話セットの販売と何ら変わらね
え。Damn. Akko was sad to hear the truth was as bad as she thought. Hinomi seemed confused as usual.
それ確かなの、飛丸。
ああ、親父の秘書さんから聞いた話だ。間違いない。表向きは新興宗教なんだが、やってることは羽毛布団の販売だとさ。小さまばあさま相手に質の低い羽毛布団を高額で売りつけているらしい。あの事務所も貸し事務所だ。1ヶ月もこの町で稼いだらあっさりドローンするつもりだろ。
いや。
間違いなく宗十郎は騙されてるな。最高のカモだろ、詐欺師にとっちゃ。
Tomoto slumped his shoulder in defeat. Akko, however, was already in full-on battle mode.
よし、潰す。その後木の実は学校の旗のところに吊るす。
え、直？今のセリフだと縄じゃなくて首？脊髄にぐっさり？殺人？
いや待て青崎、それだと辻褄が合わん。宗十郎は大金を持ってたんだよな。それじゃあカモとは呼べねえぞ。
そういえばそうだった。木の実くんの発言に気を取られすぎてあの大金のことを忘れてた。あれってことはまさか。
ああ、騙されている側だったら金は減っていく。だが増えてるなら話は別だ。考えたくねえが、宗十郎のやつはセールス側に回ってるんじゃないか。
信じられない。宗十郎が詐欺グループの一員になっているですって。
はあ、まさか静木に騙されるようなやつはいねえよ。だいたい嘘つけないじゃんあいつ。羽毛布団を売りさばくとか絶対無理だって。
だから宗十郎自身、それが悪質な詐欺だと気づいてないんじゃないか。あいつはあいつで心からいいものだと思って売ってるんだよ。真心の塊で。
ほう、なるほど、そりゃ納得だ。あの純真さんがお年寄りに大人気ってわけだな。やるじゃん静木。今度会ったら俺もお裾分けしてもらった。
木の実くんの構成は今後の課題として。
Damn.
どうしよう飛丸、もう少し様子を見た方がいいと思う。仮に静木くんが関わってたら彼にも詐欺罪が適用される。まだ未成年だけど。
あくまで従業員だから実刑はかからねえとは思うが、敵さんはあれで食ってる連中だからな。宗十郎が雇われた時の契約書の内容次第だ。
そうよね。下手したら宗十郎自身もう入会してるかもしれない。
Akko looked a lot more cool-headed now. Tomoto had been serving with her on the student council for over a year. He knew exactly what she was thinking at a time like this.
入会していたら脱会は難しいな。あいつ本人にその気がなくともハンコの力は絶大だ。それで青崎、どこまでやる気だ？
営業停止は最低ライン。進行は自由だって言うなら よその土地でやってもらうまでよ。
だろうな。そんな顔してるぜ、お前さん。
Okay.
で、宗十郎はどうする？とりあえず辞めさせるか？
当然。けど、もう彼だけの問題じゃないわ。そもそもうちの生徒を雇おうとした時点で私たちの問題よ。しずきくんとは関係なしで、あの事務所潰すから。
いいけどな。厄介だぞ、あの手の連中は。サラ金と同じで、法律上は何の問題もね。
Credit card companies, loan companies, fuck
下手に
all
商
of
売
them.
の邪魔をすれば、損害賠償
They're all
と言い
going
出し
to
かね。
hell.
せいてはことを何とやらだ。
分かってる。まずは会社の概要と社長の素性、構成員の数を調べながら被害者の洗い出し。
What? Ako suddenly stopped talking in the middle of her detailed plans.
どうした青崎？て、け。
What is it? What did they saw? Tsumoto noticed right away what Ako had spotted. Ako was looking at the crowd on the street. A familiar young man wearing a coat was walking through the lively 2nd Street. He walked confidently up to the office building and disappeared inside. He hadn't seemed to notice the word trio watching from the shadows. The young man clearly, Sojiro Shizuki, had just started his shift, still oblivious to the severity of the situation he was in. Ako was shaking with rage.
待て、落ち着け青崎。気持ちはわかるが、あいつに悪気はだな。
ああ、もうなんか無性に頭きた。
Aka raised her head up in a fury and clenched her fists. She was no longer her usual calm and collected self. This was the student council president who ruled with an iron fist, fueled by her own righteous indignation.
飛び丸、応援団の美濃先輩に連絡取って、今すぐこわもての団員20人ほど集めてきて。
What?
喧嘩になるかもしれないから、それなりの装備込みでって。
Okay. Ako darted out into the main street as she barked her orders. She looked like a esteemed general charging to battle against the enemy squadron.
ミノって応援団の団長のか？しかも20人って。
What the
お
fuck?
前一体何する気だ？
決まってるでしょ。殴り込みよ。
Okay.
まずは法律面での制裁からなんて考えが甘かった。学生騙して私腹を肥やすような悪党には物理的な制裁で十分よ。そもそもスケールが小さいっての。
Okay.
何よ本物の光って。こんなしけた街で羽毛布団とか売ってんな。
She kind of reminded me of Neko Arc with that face.
待て、落ち着け。さっきまでの平和的なプランはどこに行った？悪党を暴力で押さえつけていいのは警察だけだ。いいから戻りやがれ。
Okay.
何よ、その警察が使えないから私たちが出張るんじゃない。文句あるならダイアン出せ。
I don't like that they're squabbling outside the building.
文句はね、まず落ち着けって話だ。そもそもダイアンなんざ立てるまでもね。お前さん、さっきはどんな手を考えてたか口にしてみろ。まずは法律面での制裁をとか言ってただろ。
そんなのあんただって分かってるでしょ。あの会社の調査と並行して詐欺の被害に遭った人たちを探して、私たちが間に入って連盟を作る。 ご老人ばかりを標的にしてるのはおじいさんたちは世間の事情に疎いと見くびってるからだろうし。なんでおじいさんたちだけじゃわからない問題を私たちでフォローしてあげれば被害者の会ぐらいは作れるわ。
よーし、その調子だ。確かに一人一人で掛け合っても連中にとっちゃ痛くも痒くもね。横のつながりを作るのは大事だからな。それで契約をなかったことにして取られた金を取り戻すか？
それは無理でしょうね。契約書は絶対よ。頭くるけど書かれたことは覆らない。今からできるのはこれ以上の被害を抑えることだけ。ローンの解約、入会の破棄、それと可能な限り金銭を回収する。羽毛布団ならクーリングオフが適用されるはず。全ての返品は無理でもやるに越したことはないわ。
上出来だ。それで行こうぜ、青崎。何もお前さんが悪役になる必要はねえ。せっかくの法治国家だ。平和的に解決しよう。
それはそうだけど、こんなの部外者だから言えることよ。詐欺に遭った人たちからすれば取られたものは取られたままなんだし。
Okay.
それを気に病むのはそれこそお前の仕事じゃねえ。まずはクマリンに連絡しよう。あいつ商店街の娘だからな。被害者の調査に向いているだろう。
小鹿に？あんまり荒ごとに巻き込みたくないけど仕方ないか。
Yeah, she's smarter than
私の方から連絡する。飛び丸は美濃先輩への電話お願い。
あ？こっちの話なら応援団必要ねえだろ。
必要だってば。脅し要員だけじゃなく、おじいさん間の連携に走ってもらわなくちゃ。先輩たちいかつい顔して優しいでしょ。クーリングオフは書面に起こすことが大前提。書類に弱いおじいさんたちの代わりに先輩たちに代筆してもらうのよ。
なるほど、そりゃいい。数の暴力だな。連中も20人からの返品は夢にも思ってねえだろうさ。
Dude. Aka and Tomomaru are both not in agreement. They never went inside the building to even confirm it's the company he's thinking about. Can only have it completely left to the wayside in this whole discussion.
なあ、クーリングオフってなんだよ。
Nasu, please do not
俺聞い
explain
たこと
that.
ねえんだけど。
Nasu, please, no. Nasu, no.
買った商品を返品して購入時の金額を返してもらうことよ。日本じゃ10年ぐらい前から正式に採用されてるけど、木の実くん聞いたことない？
いや全く。ただの返品と違うの？
同じだけどこっちは国が後ろ盾になってくれるわ。本物の光が法を盾にするならこっちも法で突き破るだけよ。おじいさんたちには馴染みのない話だろうから、そこは私たちが代わりにやるってわけ。
Okay. In reality, only a very narrow range of products were applicable for a satisfaction period law. It was currently unclear if those handled by the Light of Truth fell under that umbrella. It was not applicable under this law. Ako would have to think of another plan. However, not 30 minutes later, their worry would vanish when they got the chance to examine an actual quilt sold by the Light of Truth. Once Ako had an established plan, she would not waver from it. Oh, okay. They had made a cafe with a view of the office building, their command center. And after they got together, others from the student council for backup. Their one-day blitz tactic plan began.
そうと決まれば迅速にね。2 二人とも連絡係よろしく。サクッと今日中に決着をつけましょう。
Tomomaru sighed at the thought of trying to complete everything in a day's time. Kinomi, on the other hand, wondered why he had been dragged in to help. Although Tomomaru had gotten Ako to abandon the idea of a physical fight, Ako knew that the contract plan would be difficult to pull off and continued to research other options. There were many conditions that needed to be met for this plan to actually work. The major issue was the amount of time elapsed from the time of purchase. For consumable goods, the time limit for a legal return was 8 days. If there were 30 or so victims, this would probably only be applicable to one or two of them. If that was the case, they needed to look for some other consumer protection besides the satisfaction clause.
何々？安価なものを不当な金額で売りつけた場合、暴利行為として公序良俗違反で契約が無効となる場合がある。ただし、公序良俗を根拠とするって。何よこれ、ほとんど売る側の勝ちじゃない。疑わしきは罰せずが法廷の基本だし、水かけ論じゃこっちが不利だ。
It was a difficult situation. They wouldn't be able to stand up to an experienced group of scam artists with their limited knowledge of the law. They need to fight fire with fire, or in this case, a scam with a scam.
騙し取られた金額分だけ美味しい話で騙し取るって話か。
To do that, they need more intel. Ako was studying the materials they collected for something they could use. Oh God.
お待たせ。
Oh!
とりあえず追加候補
It's
10人分の
Komari.
住所と
Whatever
布
her
団
name
の
is.
現物持ってきたわよ。
Oh, she got a casual
さ
outfit.
すがくまり。本気出せば仕事の早いこと早いこと。
So everyone got a casual outfit except for Kinomi. Ako took the list of victims for the student council secretary, Kochika Kumari, and immediately contacted Tomomaru on his pager. Oh, she's the student council secretary? Okay. Although pages could only receive short messages like call me, they were a powerful means of communication in an age where people relied on public telephones. Tomomaru called the cafe to give Ako an update and hear about the list of newly discovered victims.
被害者の会はできたのね。仕切りは青山くんにやらせて。一応相手への牽制として名刺も作ってくれると助かる。事務局はほら、文化祭の時に作った偽団体あるじゃない？あそこの電話番号にしておいて。電話番は山城先生に頼み込むわ。
The victim advocacy group was currently at just over 10 members. The group aim was to help the victims of the scam get their money back and remove themselves from the light of truth. Some of the victim was not even realize they're being scammed, so with some explanation, about 10 more members were added. It helped that it was polite young well-dressed students who were giving them this information. The elderly generally seemed more accepting of anyone who was around the age of their grandchildren.
にしても、よくここまで調べたもんだわ。規定の20人なんてあっという間だったわね。
あんたの言う条件が分かりやすかったから。60過ぎのご老人で一人暮らしで町内会に入っていない人を探せばよかったんだし、やってることは本物の光の販売員と一緒。でもこんなんでなんとかなる話じゃないと思うけど、結局のところ抗議するのが関の山じゃ。青崎？ちょっと何薄気味悪い顔で笑ってるのよ。
Ako looked up after being called out by her friend.
いやー、面白いもん見つけちゃって。成果の乏しい戦いになると思ってたけど、風向きが変わったわ。ほら、 見てクマ、この羽毛布団のマーク。
ん？
Ako showed her the product label sewn into the down quotes. There on the tag will look like a Japanese industrial standards logo. The Japanese industrial standards help maintain the quality of the industrial product in Japan. Product with this mark were required to be produced in accordance with the industrial standardization law.
JLS？ そう。こうなると契約書が逆に武器になる。百戦錬磨かと思ったけど、実際はウサギしか相手にしない素人ってこと。ええ、うまく話を持っていけば全額返済も夢じゃないわ。勝利の勝ち時はさぞ気持ちのいいものになるでしょうね。
Ako took a seat, still grinning from ear to ear. She didn't ring Tobimo the pager. Instead, she dialed a different number on the red phone while humming to herself. She's going to call Alice. Ako heard the familiar ringing tone through the receiver.
青崎、築地に連絡入れるんじゃないの？作戦が変わったって。それは後。今大事なのは交渉役を誰にするかよ。私や飛び丸じゃさすがに貫禄不足だしね。
Alice, huh?
こっちが有利になったとしてもまだ状況は五分だし。会話次第じゃひっくり返されるだろうから、被害者の会の代表はそれはもう少年のひん曲がった悪魔でないと。
悪魔？
それあんたのことだと思うんだけど、違うの？いえいえ、こういうのは社会的立場のある大人じゃないと務まりません。
Adult? I don't know.
安心してくまり、ぴったりのやつを知ってるから。
Who does she know? To someone from the church?
ま、詐欺師には詐欺師ってね。
Someone from the church, huh?
この町には人を言いまかすのだけが仕事のやつって言っちゃったりするのよ。今日もやることなくて暇してるだろうし、たまには働いてもらわないと。
Yes.
彼女にかかっちゃサラ金だろうが教祖だろうが、1時間で精神崩壊。裸足で山に逃げ込むわ。
Ako kept the phone receiver at her ear as she delivered these cutting remarks. The ringing tone had long since gone silent.
もしもし、まさかとは思いますが、今の話は私のことでしょうか、青子さん。
An eloquent woman's voice could be heard from the phone earpiece. Ako innocently said her greetings and smiled like a hunter who had just gotten their prey to take the bait. Okay. Okay. Alright.
常々思っていましたが、あなたには年長者への敬意が足りていないようですね、青子さん。
え？
Tomoda Kinomi had returned from the task and stood there wide-eyed. The person Ako had invited to the cafe looked so out of place that it was a shock to everyone.
はーい、ゆいかさん。わざわざ来てもらって助かるわ。事情は電話で説明したけど、もう少し詳しく説明する？
結構です。本物の光のことは先ほど律香から報告を受けましたから、あなたに享受していただく事柄は一つもありません。
ありゃま、ご機嫌斜め。よかった。そのテンションのまんま勝ち込みお願いね。一般人の一人や二人、
Blair.
ゆいかさんが本性を出せば睨むだけでそっとさせられるでしょ。
I don't see her with her eyes closed.
そうなの？このお姉さん相田協会のシスターさんだよね。俺密かに憧れてたんですけど。あ、いや、そんな場合じゃねえ。どうも木の実宝介っす。青崎さんとはあんまり仲良くありません。
Kinomi was clearly trying to earn points by showing that he also was not that friendly with Ako. Sister Yuka gave him an angelic smile back.
こ これはご丁寧に。相田教会で装飾を務める須瀬ゆいかです。はじめまして、大介さん。
いやー、すんげえ、本当にシスターだよ、シスター。会長、とんでもない隠し玉連れてきたな。あれ、でもゆいかさんに何してもらうの？いや、俺はいてくれるだけで嬉しいけど。
まあ大体想像できるが。はじめまして、シスターゆいか。三崎高校生徒会副会長、築地飛丸です。
Tomoto didn't look so well. Perhaps he had figured out where this course of events was headed. The JLS label was indeed illegal. This discovery made Aoka realize how they could get the victims' money back and run the light of truth out of town completely. Sister Yuika was her solution.
てっきり証拠に物を言わせて、訴えられたくなければ示談で済ませろ、全額返して出ていけって話かと思ったが、恐ろしい女だぜ。追い出すだけじゃなくスカンピンにして放り出そうって腹か。
は？なんでそうなるの？何？美人なだけじゃなくシスターさんってそんな権利持ってるの？
シスターさんがじゃなくてゆいかさんの人間力と言うべきね。はい、これ被害者の会からの連名書。一応うちの応援団の先輩たちも待機してるけど、何人か連れていく？
そうですね。逆上して手を挙げられては後片付けが面倒ですので、抑止力として5人ほど。あとは青子さんが同行してくれるのでしたら、私としては不満はありません。
え？どういうこと？もしかしてシスターさんが話つけに行くの？会長のがよくね？
いいのいいの。ゆいかさんはこう見えて荒事の専門家なんだから。ねえ、ゆいかさん。
Okay.
あなたほどではありませんが。
Okay.
いいでしょう。今回は利益が一致します。あの事務所の方々が違法を働いているのは事実ですから、罪には罰を、善良な人々を、特に私たちの同胞を苦しめた手合いには相応の痛みが必要です。
さすが泣く子も黙る鬼のシスター。期待してるわ。昔から商売敵を潰すのは得意だものね、あなたたち。
言われるまでもありません。一つの土地に二つの教えがあっては迷惑です。
Though the two continued to antagonize each other, they entered the office building fighting for the same team. The 5 burly members of the cheer team filed in behind them. They had left behind a glum Tobimaru and a completely clueless Kinomi.
わかんねえ。青崎、あの美人さんに何やらせる気なんだよ。
美人。
そりゃお前、口にはできない残虐行為だろ。相手の弱みを握ったらとことん叩きのめすのが青崎だからな。違法販売をネタにして契約解除をさせた後に告訴するって流れ。訴えるのはシスターの役目だな。立場上、学生である青崎よりシスターの方がお題目が立つ。何よりあの教会、たまに嫌な噂を聞くしな。連中、貯めた財産根こそぎ取られるだけで済めばいいが。
After taking a few deep breaths, Tobimaru also headed towards the office building.
え？天下も事務所に行くの？怖くない？
行かねえよ、おっかねえ。俺のはちょっとした野暮用だ。てめえも補習に戻れよ。今日の礼はまた改めてくれてやるから。
What does that mean?
バッカ、補習なんてもう終わってるじゃんか。 気がつけばもうすぐ夕方だぜ、夕方。楽しかったからいいけどな。
違いない。あっという間の半日だった。
Tomomaru waved goodbye and disappeared into the office building.
は
Hinori thought it was strange that Tomomaru had just said he wasn't going in there. However, he left as well after hearing a noise that sounded like glass breaking on the third floor of the office building. A wise man never courts danger, as to say. Alright. The discussion ended without any major issues. What's Sojiro's real job? Inside the office was completely untouched after the center line of desks had been pulverized by Sister Yuika. Things had been resolved peacefully without any bloodshed. The office had been conquered in about an hour, and Aoko was now surveying it. The large desk had gone right through the window, flung through the air with a single swing of Sister Yuika's hands. The cell staff was shaking in the corner like they'd just seen the devil incarnate. Sister Yuika brought in the 5 members of the chair team to seize the office permits and other important documents.
あれ
Unfortunately, the one thing Ako was looking for was nowhere to be found. She went and asked the cell staff, still quivering in the corner of the room.
ちょっと3時間ぐらい前、ここに人畜無害そうなの来なかった？ビルから出てきてないからまだ中にいると思うんだけど。
Everyone shook their heads no. Nobody had seen a student who fit that description in the office. Ako was looking even more confused at this point. Then, one big misunderstanding.
でもまあ。
She was still happy she'd done a good deed here today. Alright. Tomomaru entered the office building and headed straight down the hallway. He glanced at the stairs in front of him as he walked by, passing several attendants, and headed towards the emergency exit at the back of the building. Tomomaru knew the geography of the second street well. If memory served him correctly, there were some old one-story houses behind this building that had been around forever. There were old tin-roofed rental houses that stood against the tides of time. Though overshadowed by the recent trend of 2-story apartments, they were still there, alive and kicking. At the back of the office building, there was a river for processing wastewater. Beyond the river and the fence, there were many one-story houses. Next to the building, there was a bridge that crossed over to the other side. There was a shortcut only neighborhood locals would know about.
なるほど。大したショートカットだ。地図なんて当てになんねえな。
As Tomomaru walked towards the bridge, he saw a familiar face exit one of the old tin roof houses. The young man wearing a coat. It was without a doubt Sojiro Suzuki.
明日もまた来ておくれね。
Sojiro crossed the bridge while the old woman who resided there saw him off.
あれ副会長
ああ、奇遇だな、色男。
The two exchanged glances as they crossed paths on the bridge. Sojiro looked fairly spent. That was all Tomomaru needed to see. Sojiro's new job was a lot harder than working for any scam artist. They both stopped to talk on the footbridge.
あの辺りに親戚でもいんのか？
いや、いない。一つ手に紹介されて、おばあさんの話し相手をしていただけだ。
He know me. For some reason, Sojiro readily revealed what he had refused to tell Ako.
そんな気軽に話していいのか？守秘義務とかありそうだが。
いや、秘密にしなくちゃいけない話でもないんだ。ただ、話しちゃいけない気がしただけで。飛び丸には出てくるところを見られたし、正直誰かに言いたい気持ちはあった。弱音みたいなものだから副会長が聞いてくれるならちょうどいい。
Leaning on the rail of the footbridge, Tobimaru urged him to go on. It turned out that Sojiro's story was nothing out of the ordinary. His new part-time job was to be a home helper in that old one-story house. The resident was a widow who had been left alone after her son moved off to the city.
はじめはただのお手伝いだったんだけどね。
He spoke with a troubled, slightly regretful smile. Maybe he was ashamed of something he'd done. There was a tinge of darkness behind the wry's tormented smile on his face. Tobimaru found himself surprised at his own thoughts and slapped himself lightly on the cheek. This was his way of punishing himself. He wasn't sure why his imagination was running so wild now.
珍しく浮かない顔だが、あれか？出て行った息子さんとやらに文句があるのか？介護が必要なおふくろさんを放って好き勝手に暮らしていることに？
どうだろう。確かにおかしな話だとは思う。けど、俺はその息子さんを責める気にはなれない。だってそれは。
Sojiro stopped himself mid-sentence. He didn't think the son hated his mother so much that as he did the town. He probably just found somewhere better to live and moved away. Sojiro swallowed those bitter words.
お手伝いの料金は初めに全部もらってたんだ。今月だけという話なのに10万円は高すぎると思う。
He trailed off, muttering that he really didn't need that much money. The old woman had thanked him for his honesty. That was part of Sojiro's appeal, most likely. In a matter of days, the old woman put all of her trust into Sojiro and treated him like her own grandson.
ああ、それは素直に嬉しいんだけど、問題は。
She always saw him off with a smile and asked him to return tomorrow. Every time he left, she gave him a stack of cash in the hope that he wouldn't forget her.
ああ、それだけで大金もらってたのか？
うん。お孫さんの代わりをしてほしいと言われた。あなたは信じられるから、これで孫のように振る舞ってくれって。
なんだそりゃ。少しも信じてねえよそれ。金で動く孫がいるか？そりゃヘルパーと変わらね
え。いや、おばあさんはヘルパーさんにはお金は払わないと言った。信頼できないから。あのおばあさんが信じられるのはお金だけなんだ。
She seemed to have some quirks about her, probably because she'd been living alone for so long. By this point, she lost all faith and the goodwill of humankind. To her, the bonds of a family were nothing but fantasy. Damn. After being cast aside by her own family for so many years, the only thing that remained faithful to her was the money she saved. Over time, this led to her developing a strange complex. For her, the money she scrimped and saved, the last thing she could rely on, was the only way she could conceive of keeping someone in her life.
バカらしい。それって結局金で雇った他人じゃねえか。孫の代わりとは言えねえな。
それはおばあさんが誰よりも分かってるよ。でも偽物だと分かっていてもそれぐらいしか信じられるものはなかったんだ。おばあさんにとって家に寄りつかなくなったお孫さんは今一番欲しいものだから、その代償として彼女が一番信用できるものを真心として渡してくれたんだ。
She wasn't buying him though. She just trusted Sojiro from the bottom of her heart and was thanking him the only way she knew how. She didn't realize how that looked from other people's perspectives.
また厄介な事情に首突っ込んだもんだ。まあ、あんまり深く思い詰めるな。いい話じゃねえか。命より金が大事だったばあさんが今になって思い出の方に転んだわけだ。まっとうな話だよ。
そうかな。そうだといいけど。
It was obvious from Sojiro's expression that all this still weighed heavily on him.
なんだよ、煮え切らねえな。どうせお前さんのことだ。もらった金は一銭も使ってねえんだろ。んなことしてりゃいずれ年金も底をつく。そうなった時に丸々返すつもりだから青崎にも黙ってたんじゃないのか。
ん？なんで飛び丸がそんなこと知ってるんだ？
まあ、いや、なんとなくそんな気がした。
So Maru decided it was best not to tell Sojiro about all the trouble that they went through for him today. He knew Aka would only make him regret it later if he did.
そっか。でもこの話の一番難しいところはね、飛び丸。その人にはお孫さんはいなかったんだ。
は？
After a few moments of surprise, Maru let out a sigh. He understood. They're dead? Being widow with a son who moved into the city and girl children who never visit. That was a normal, full and rich life. Sometimes, however, a person's dreams were all that kept them going. The bottom is limitless. For every tragic life, there's another even more tragic than that.
時々油断すると思うんだ。この街について。みんな幸福そうに見えるのに、裏を覗くとそうでもないのはなんでだろうって。なんか街全体に騙されてるみたいだ。
Maru leaned over the railing and looked down at the bustling building below. A bustling town below. In the end, Sojiro's worries stemmed from his feeling lost in this environment. The woman who walked through life alone into old age. Maru struggled with being antagonized by his entire family. Those were both personal matters. Sojiro's problems stem from the nebulous entity of the town itself. For every bit of progress made through modernization, there were also people left in growing misfortune. It didn't matter whether they were unequal in wealth or compassion, it was all the same. The larger a town grows, the harder it becomes for the weak to thrive. For a young man who spent his life in the countryside where everyone helped each other, this was hard to understand.
宗十郎、お前、この町は好きか？
まだわからない。そういう飛び丸は？
まあ似たようなもんだ。好き嫌いも半々で、たまに何もかもどうでもよくなる時はある。だがまあ、お前さんとは真逆だな。俺はこの町のおかげで、てめえの悩みなんざ無視できる。ここに比べりゃマシだってな。空虚であろうと、この忙しさ、節操のなさは捨てたもんじゃねえってな。
ここに比べたらマシ？
違うな。マシというよりはありって感じか。バイトしてればたまに思うだろ。街ってのは隙間を作らないように回ってるんだ。欠席にしろ空席にしろ、空きができたらすぐに埋められるようにできている。当たり前のようで、こいつはよくできた共同体なんだよ。昨日までは誰でもなかった他人が、明日には必要な隣人になってるかもしれない。昨日まではなかった街角に新しい建物ができていることもある。まるで毎日が切った縫ったの大手術だ。それでもうまく回ってることに真剣に感心する。本当に何かの弾みで思うんだよ。俺はてめえだけで生きてるんじゃなくて、どうでもいい誰かのどうでもいい頑張りのおかげでこうして管負けてるんだってな。持ちつ持たれつだ。そういう巡り合わせを成立させているだけでもどんなバランスなんだって呆れるわけだ。
Just as the mountains are alive, so is the city. Tomaru didn't seem to like the way that living creatures had manifested itself. But even still.
そうか。敬意を払ってるんだな。
This is a really good song, dude.
まあ、照れくさいが、そういうこと。
As someone who was born and raised in the city, Tomaru was thankful that complete strangers were able to help each other out.
つうか、お前さんは贅沢すぎる。初めから好きなところに住めるやつなんていねえだろ。生まれる場所は選べねえしな。単純な話、自分が住むって決めたところを好きになるしかねえってことだ。
That's why everyone always move. Alright. Tomato gave Sojiro back a hard slap. It made Sojiro straighten his posture and snap him out of his slump a bit.
でも飛び丸、そこに住むって決めても好きになれなかったらどうするんだ？
どうしても好きになれないやつは違う土地に行けばいい。
Don't be scared.
嫌なら逃げてもいいんだよ。放浪するのも人生だぜ。
That's a pretty good word of advice. Don't be afraid to run away from bad situations. Sojiro was so impressed with Tomado's words he couldn't speak. They gave him a new perspective. It wasn't just the words, don't be scared to run away from a bad place. What had really left a strong impression was Tomaru's confidence. Although he had been born in this town, he spoke freely of abandoning it.
飛び丸から逃げるなんて言葉が出るとは思わなかった。
逃げる先があるなら逃げてもいいだろって話。そりゃ勝ちとか成功とか そういう言葉に固執するのも悪くはねえさ。富と名声はいいもんだしな。だが俺にはどうも勝ち続けるっていうのは固まるってことに見える。息苦しくてしょうがない。青崎みたいにがんじがらめになっても突き進むパワーもねえしな。心情は軽い方がいいだろうよ。
ん？人生は軽い方がいいのか？
いや、軽いとか手堅いとかそういうんじゃなくて、俺はもっとこうロマンあふれるっつうか。
Tomomaru furrowed his brow in his inability to find the proper words. What he wanted was simple.
そうだな。俺はきっと笑える人生が送りたいんだ。
That was how he saw life. Tomomaru tried his best to put into words his thoughts, hoping his friend would find them useful.
漫才師か？
What? Okay. Yes. Tomomaru's shoulders slumped in disappointment. But even so.
いや、そんなもんか。
Yeah.
実際。
The more he thought about it, the more he realized that Soshiro wasn't really wrong. There was no end to human desire. The perfect life was an unattainable dream. The only way to really win was to be able to say with your dying breath that you had truly enjoyed living.
たく、青崎の影響かね。考えなしのバクとかっていうの。あいつ、ボニー&クライドとか大好きなんだろうな。
Tomomaru tiredly scratched his head. He never would have said something like this last year, considering how pessimistic he had been.
ともかくだ。他人の事情にいちいち落ち込んでるようじゃ日が暮れるぜ。いや、実際もう暮れかけてるけどな。とんだ道草だ。
そうか。引き止めてすまなかった。飛び丸は他に用事が？
俺もおとなしく家に帰るとするか。そっちも日が落ちる前に帰れよ。何をしていたか聞かれたら隠さず事情は説明しとけ。その話、お前が思ってるほどひでえ話じゃねえから。
Soshiro frowned and fell silent. He still hadn't come to terms with his arrangement with that old woman yet. If he hadn't gone there in the first place, she might not have felt like anything was missing from her life. The feeling of regret was exactly why he wanted to talk to someone.
お前、残酷なことをしたと思ってんだろ。ばあさんの人生に今からじゃ取り戻せないものを見せつけ
Think
た。
Ako's gonna be
どうかな？
pissed? Maybe. I don't think so, bud. Soichiro was stunned into silence. Tomomaru knew exactly what Soichiro regretted. I think Ako will react just like how Tomomaru's reacting to
思い
Soichiro
上が
right
りだ
now.
ぜ、宗十郎。いいか、そのばあさんも自分は人生に失敗したなんて思ってんなら、今の自分にできることをさせればいい。幸い金は腐るほどあるんだろう。なら思いっきり人助けをさせてみろ。金で救える不幸なんざ山ほどあるだろ。で、ばあさんがどんなもんだと胸を張れたんなら、それは間違いなくいい仕事だ。少なくとも俺は気持ちがいい。
それはおばあさんの苦しみを解決していない。
解決できねえ問題は放っておけ。そのばあさんには今他に解決できる問題があるんだから、それでいいじゃねえか。で、悪いけどお金はこれから世のため人のため自分のために使うから返しておくれとなったらば、ばあさんの勝ち。偽物の孫なんざより
Scratch marks
よ
on
っぽど
me,
いい
man.
生きがいに目
I
覚
didn't
め
even
たわ
scratch
け
my
だな。
arm. I don't think I did.
しかしこれで満足したから残りはやっぱりもらっておくれ。といえばお前さんの勝ち。ばあさんにとってはやっぱり孫の方がいいってことで、そん時は大手を振って大金持って帰りやがれ。
なるほど。
Sojiro clapped his hands together. He was finally able to accept these conditions as fair.
すまない。ありがとう、飛び丸。
His smile was no longer bitter. He would do whatever he could to help that old woman choose to assist others in need. Tobimaru thought that such unwavering confidence was a sign of true freedom.
気にするな。礼を言うならお互い様だ。じゃあな、宗次郎。休み明けにまた学校で。
His goodbye wasn't the friendliest, but Sojiro didn't mind. He ran home with a big smile on his face. Tobimaru's smile was a bit less carefree as he left the footbridge. The footbridge. The time was 4:30 in the evening. Night would soon fall over the midwinter landscape.
Taだいま。今夜はまた一段と冷えるね。
Akko and Alice were both in the drawing room when he returned. Neither of them had eaten dinner yet. Akko looked displeased. Alice sat uncomfortably on the sofa.
あれ、もしかしてこっちの帰りを待っていたのか？
Alice quietly affirmed his assumption. I like this piano. If you want to call it that. Akko vehemently denied it.
青崎、俺の気のせいならいいんだけど、なんだか昨夜以上にどうかしてないか？
Sojiro had gotten slightly better at reading the room, but he still had difficulty choosing the right words. I'll show you worked up. Was what she wanted to say, but she stopped herself. She wasn't actually all that angry with Sojiro. But
どうかしてるの、青子。
してないわよ。してるのは宗十郎の方だっていうの。
she got that Neko arc in her. Alice's additional remarks seemed to have been the tipping point. Sojiro thought this showed she was indeed worked up about something.
しずきくんがどうかしたの？彼、今夜は比較的まともだけど。
Jojo felt like that was pretty offensive too, but let it slide.
もう分かったわよ。そっちから切り出すまで黙っていようと思ったけど、私の方から聞いてあげる。
That was a part-time job.
あんた、本物の光って名前に聞き覚えはない？
いや、全く。 初めて聞いた。
でしょうね。名簿にあんたの名前はなかったもの。なんだってあんな勘違いしちゃったんだろう。骨折り損とまではいかないけど、また良くない評判立てちゃった。
Akko let out an exaggerated sigh and flopped down onto the sofa. Seeing Akko in this weakened state as an opportunity, the blue robin flew jauntily down from the sunroom.
見てたっす。自分見てたっす。ご近所じゃもうおひれつきまくりっす。青崎さんとこの娘さんがまた指一本で見せつぶしたとかマジパニー。指先一つでダウンとかどこまで都市伝説作る気っすか。
The robin continued to chatter praise for Akko's deed of valor. Akko knocked it away with a flick of her finger and picked herself up off the sofa.
今日はお金持ってないわね。例のアルバイトはもう終わったの？
いや、まだ続いているよ。あのお金は預かり物だから、朝のうちに口座を作って預けておいた。
預かり物？
そう、預かり物。きっと全額返すことになる。
Sojiro took off his coat and began talking about his job as a home helper. He kept it simple, explaining how things began and the conclusion he came to with Tobimaru earlier. Akko seemed stunned by the outlandish circumstances, but in the end.
はいはい、やっぱりね。安心したっていうか、がっかりしたっていうか。そうよね。どう頑張っても悪事を働ける人間じゃないわよね、あなた。
She was back to her usual offensive self. However, why does Alice like to make that face? There was another girl in that room who had, at this point, gone pale.
待って。ということは、それはしずきくんのお金ではないの？
Did she spend that money?
ああ、人様のお金だよ。
アリス？
Alice, what the fuck did you do to the money?
なんかとんでもない顔してるけど、どうかした？
それが、どうかはしてないけど。
Okay.
出前はしたわ。
はい？
Okay. Really expensive takeout. Alice handed out menus for the local soba noodle shop in the cafe. The blood drained from Akko's face as she took everything in. Oh, fuck. Alice quietly passed her a small note. On it was a hastily written order that was more than enough food for the three of them. Oh my god, Alice. I never thought Alice would be the one to mess up.
そろそろごちそうのタイミングかと思って。
Damn. God damn it, Alice. Okay. Alice's accusing gaze fell on Sojiro.
俺？なんで？
Because she thought he was rich.
そりゃあんたがいらない期待を持たせたからでしょう。アリス、あんなに喜んでたじゃない。明日はごちそうねって。
Damn. Sojiro clapped his hands together for the second time today. He remembered that Alice had said that yesterday.
ええ、あの夜、しずきくんは同意してくれたわ。
Alice was eager to emphasize that this was not her fault.
いや、それは。
そうね。アリスのミスなのは確かだけど、 悪いのはあんたもよ。大金を持ち歩くってのはそれだけで危険なんだから。
That was
いい
true.
教訓になったんじゃない？観念して二人で感情を折半しなさいよ。
Oh boy.
いや、それはできない。あのお金は預けてきたし、そ
Fuck.
もそも500円しか持ち合わせが
That's
ない
like $5.
そう合わせても足りないわね。試したことはないけど出前にキャンセルは効くのかしら。
An air of despair fell upon the Guanji estate. Ako sighed as if none of this involved her. She hated to coddle them, but perhaps this was her fate. Oh, she's gonna pay.
そうなるか。いいわよ、私が出してあげる。今日は臨時収入があったからパーッと派手に使いましょう。
Oh, from the when she brung that organization down. Ako's sudden proposal made both Sojiro and Alice perk up.
つまり、青崎のおごり。
Okay.
そんな信じられない。いいの青子。
呼んじゃったものは今さら止められないでしょ。さっき電話したんなら今頃はもう坂を登ってきてるだろうし。まあそもそもこのお金も宗十郎が発端だしね。人助けをしたら被害者の会からお礼をもらっちゃったのよ。
Okay.
だから気にしないで。なんか居心地悪かったし錠剤と思って商店街に還元する。本音言うとちょっともったいないけどね。
Her roommates began celebrating. Roommates is Alice and Sojiro celebrating free food. Ako sat back on the sofa upon seeing the happiness her gesture brought.
ああ、悪戦身につかずって言うけど、ほんとその通り。臨時収入は泡と消えたか。
And thus, the curtain closed on a little incident involving a lot of cash. Alright. The blue robin flew down to the sofa. Excuse me, table again.
まったく嫌な山だったぜ。
The robin chirped and mimicked, puffing on the cigarette.
まあそれはそれとして、青子さんの空回りっぷりを忘れないよう、これをカーモネーギー事件として記録しとくっすね。
The blue robin continued to laugh at that day's hero. Ako flicked the bird away just as someone knocked at the door. Food's here. Hell yeah. Alice had ordered her favorite omelet dish and a set of cake from the cafe. Oh yeah.
まあそれなら。
Woo! Ako was quite satisfied with the spoils of an honest day's work. Nice. Omelet and cake. Nice, nice. What's that said? Oh, the Carnegie case. And we got 2 more extra stories that I want to read. I guess we'll save that for next time. That one took 2 hours and 33 minutes. Not bad. That was actually a good one. I like this one the most, probably. That one was a really good extra story. What was the other extra story? Martha is probably my least favorite. What's the other one? This one? The Incident of the Night. Is that an extra story? Maybe. Was there another 0.5? Night of Witches. Maybe. No, whatever. That was a good one. GG's. I like that one a lot. Makes me like the side characters a lot more too. We'll play more Wish of the Holy Night next time. GG's for now.